It's been 10 years since Amanda MacDonald launched Full Gallop Communications, one of the first marketing consultancies focused on the equestrian industry. In this special anniversary episode of Marketing Hacks, Amanda reflects on how the marketing landscape has changed and what she's learned working across barns, boardrooms, and looks ahead to what's next for her.
Hi, this is Amanda MacDonald, and this is a special episode of Marketing Hacks. This is looking back at 10 years of Full Gallop Communications, and I'm going to do a little look back over all of the things, and actually doing the notes for this has been really fun because it's reminded me of some things that I forgot about and people that I wanted to be in touch with and just so many things. So when I first started out in 2015, the landscape was really different looking. I was on just a handful of equestrian marketing consultants at the time. And since then, it's grown so much as an industry. And I'm so excited that I was there at the beginning to see how that has just expanded. And, you know, so many young women are graduating and getting into this field, and men. And coming out of the HP conference just reminded me of the high quality of marketing that takes place in this space. And I'm really just so proud to be a part of that, even as a small portion of that. Social media, storytelling, audience expectations have just shifted so much. And during that time, everything has gotten so professional. It used to be very much a game of finding the right professional rider to team up with and relying on them to tell your story and handhold that brand message. And it's really shifted into its own, which is very exciting. It's really kind of this rise of women-led equestrian marketing, and this has created its own community on social media and on, you know, all of the other platforms that people like to hang out and get their information. It's really cool. Looking at kind of where I started, why I started it, this has been a labor of love. I came through to this place from starting in healthcare marketing and did that for a long time. And then I shifted into optics and photonics marketing, which I really love, but it's very intense. And I still work in that space. It looks very different than the marketing that happens from the equestrian world. It's more engineer based and technical based versus story led, which is very different. It's also more factual based and not as much storytelling. I'm making that sound like there's some storytelling. There's very little storytelling. There's a big difference between, and sometimes it's difficult to go, you know, jump back and forth, but it's possible. And to stretch as a marketer, I think it's a really good thing to not get too comfortable in the way that you approach things, and to also look around at other markets and see how they handle those questions and test some of those to see if that makes sense for you. So after I left optics and I went out on my own, it was pretty exciting and terrifying. And I've talked to a few people recently that are sort of in that same boat right now, where they're starting to consult. They've left that comfort of a full-time job, and they're not relying on all of the nice perks that you get with an in-house position. So it's just interesting to watch people go through the same range of emotions that I was feeling at the time. You know, you might be very up one day and very down the next, and you know, your expectations of things that are going to pan out when somebody calls you, you learn to temper that over time. You also learn to not worry about it quite so much, which is really beneficial. Going solo in a niche space is also very interesting. And I found that I had to work outside the equestrian space. There wasn't a lot there unless I wanted to move to someplace that really had a base of business around it, like Wellington or Ocala or Lexington, or, you know, someplace like that out west. It's worked out the way it should. So that's always, you know, interesting when you look back to see the path that you have taken and the choices that you've made and how that's worked out. It's been really interesting. Defining my own voice. I kind of already had that. I had a blog for archery, which was something I was really heavily into for about 10 years, and had created a written voice that I enjoyed and had learned. And I've also had kind of these Midwestern work ethic values that I brought with me growing up in Michigan to New York. And I really feel like people need to know there needs to be some transparency there. There needs to be, a lack of surprise. There needs to be a lot of communication. And I've tried to stick with that over the years with all of my clients. And it's served me well. My brand has evolved visually over the years, as I've worked with people that have some different talents and skill sets than I do that can step in and help me smooth out things and help me create a better, more accurate vision of where I want to be. And I think that's probably going to evolve again in the next year based on the fact that, what I've had out there has been in existence for a while. So it's probably time for a refresh for myself. Again, thinking back on some of these really memorable projects that I've had over the years, I've had some really fun collaborations, but one really sticks out. And about 3 years ago, I was working with a commercial photographer named Grant Taylor, who's also in the Rochester area. And he reached out to me about doing a project for Sugar Hill Arabians and was really excited. He lives next door, and it's this insanely beautiful facility with rolling pastures and pink blooming cherry trees. And it was, you visit and you just feel so good about where these horses live and how they're treated and brought up, and just speaking to Betsy about her vision. And, it's just, the best of all worlds, right? This is this woman who's very business savvy and has made a thriving business in a really tough place to, she's not in the horse center of the universe, but she's very well regarded with what she does. And just talking to her and refining down, how we were going to approach this video project for her relaunch. It took several weeks over the course of about a month. And then I remembered very distinctly listening back. We did a couple of video interviews with Betsy and her head of the facility, Chelsea. So there were some long sessions there and a lot of prep work and hauling equipment around and into these beautiful, beautiful barns. And I remember two things were really stuck out in my head. We were interviewing Chelsea and I was leaning up against a stall. We were in the aisle, and Chelsea's been up since 4, prepping for a bunch of things. And she also has her own business on the side. And so she's been up, and we're trying to get the energy up, and we're, pitching her questions for the interview, and it's going really well. And then this mare right behind me in the stall that I'm leaning on starts banging her bucket against the wall. And I'm just laughing because it's just so funny and spontaneous. So I have, my hand between the bars, and I'm facing Chelsea to pitch these questions, and I'm trying to distract this horse and hope she's not going to bite me. And then a few days later, we did the interview with Betsy. And so we're set up in the broodmare's barn, and it's beautiful and it's breezy. And we've got these insanely cute foals running around, and we're getting some great footage. I'm laughing. I'm starting to clean it up so I can send the clips to Grant. And all I'm doing is laughing because I'm so happy in the moment, and I'm giggling through these questions. And it was just so, that will forever be my favorite project. So huge thanks to Grant and Betsy and Chelsea. It was really a special project. That clarity of vision, that trust in telling their story, and that shared passion of horses really stood out for me. Relationships are really key in building your business as much as the strategy. And if you've been around for a little while, you understand that when I'm talking about. It's something that I'm going to get into separately through some social media, and also potentially with another episode here. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do yet. There's some key relationships that I do want to give credit to because they were so instrumental along the way. And I think, we feel like there's going to be a magic bullet, silver bullet strategy that comes along and it makes everything make sense. But it's really people looking out for each other that, and sometimes it's not that much. And sometimes it's a lot that, it can be a game changer for you. And it definitely was for me along the way with help where I needed someone to give me a hand in trying to visualize what I was trying to do for myself. It's really tough when it's you and you're working in a vacuum to just kind of weed out the core of what you're trying to do because you want to say too many things and it's all important and you need someone to say, no, this is important, but it's not as important as this. So it's really beneficial to have friends along the way who are experts in their own right and can look at what you're doing and say, yeah, but if you do it this way, it's going to be better. So I really appreciate everyone who I've worked with over the past 10 years to build things up to where they are, such as they are. So more on that later. And I feel like messaging that I try to create really feels like when you belong at the barn, it's honest and it's real and it's trustworthy. And if you have those types of relationships with your horses, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you go to the barn, the people that you see on a regular basis, the ones that have your back, the ones that pinch hit for you when you're out sick and the farrier's coming, or you need meds for your horse's eye 3 times a day for 2 weeks. And, all of those things that just add to your craziness on your daily path. And you can't do it without them. Or maybe you just had an amazing ride and you have to tell somebody that understands that and feels that the way you do. It's kind of the same way I feel when I collaborate with people that do similar things and they can look at what you're doing and they understand it immediately. It's just, there's nothing like it. There really isn't. The things that I've learned along the way, like I said, honesty and clarity and just doing good work for people. Everyone's trying their best. If you have a small business, especially right now, everybody's working really hard to stay in their space and be present and continue to help their customers and their clients to do the best that they can do. It's about staying grounded and finding ways to get better at what you do and not stressing out over the things that don't matter and learning the difference. I know this probably feels a little trite, but it is really important. Talking to people that are just starting out, that are combining their passion and their business and trying to figure out what their next steps are and how to navigate that. It's so important just to hang in there and give yourself a break. Every day isn't going to be amazing. Sometimes it's going to be difficult. Sometimes you're going to get no's until you get a yes. And then it's going to snowball from there. And you just have to have faith that, you're on that curve up and it will get better and it will get easier and you will get a handle on it. It's going to be okay. Next for me in the next 10 years, this year, you've probably noticed a little bit that I'm starting to stretch out into this fractional CMO role. Right now, it feels kind of trendy. You might have seen it in a few places, but I really enjoy working with larger teams. I really enjoy looking at complex strategies for businesses that are really in it. They're embedded. They've been around for a long time, but they're not where they need to be. Or maybe they're owned by a holdings company or some other situation where they're being asked to really stretch. They're being presented with some challenges. And I so enjoy sitting down with leadership teams and walking through these questions of what they need to do, where they need to be, who do they need to reach, and then creating a plan for them that's workable. It stays within their budget, making recommendations about things that maybe they should add or think about. I get such a buzz from it that I want to do more of it. So that's what I'm looking to do. I'm not leaving anything behind, just adding to my portfolio of what I'd like to do. So it's a big, scary goal. Some days it just feels like, nope, it's not going to happen. I'm going to continue to do this podcast, Marketing Hacks. I'm going to add some more sessions in here with Grace as we can. And I'd like to figure out a way to be a little bit more visible in the community. I did do a session during the HP conference in Dallas just recently, which was a lot of fun, talking to people that are doing what I do and understanding, how this all works and giving a little bit of a different perspective because of the markets that I work in. Additionally, it was really fun. And I got to work with some amazing women that I would not have met otherwise. So looking for some additional ways to impact the marketing community. It doesn't feel like I'm just getting started. It feels like I've been doing this. I have been doing marketing for over 20 years professionally, and it's taught me a lot about perseverance and life. And some of it I can bring to the table when I ride, and some of those lessons that I learn when I ride, I bring back to marketing. It's just that wake up of realization that you can pick up and learn from anywhere that you like to live and play. And I want to do that for another 10 years. So cheers to y'all who've been on this journey with me. I really appreciate and love you so much. Ooh, getting a little emotional. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I will talk to you soon. Bye.